The fortune was just the beginning. Now the brothers must face the secrets Tobias kept even from them. Each brother is tested. Each must rise. Because this time, the puzzles are personal, and the stakes are nothing short of family, forgiveness, and blood. Hawthorne House was quiet. For the first time since Tobias Hawthorne's death, there were no will readings, no media storms, no assassins lurking in the gardens. But that peace? It didn't last, because the four Hawthorne brothers Nash, Grayson, Jameson, and Xander were about to be pulled into their own game. And this time, Avery wouldn't be the one in the spotlight. Grayson Hawthorne received a sealed envelope. The kind Tobias had always used for challenges. It was marked only with a symbol. Inside, a puzzle box, and a single line of text: "You know what you owe. Go back." Grayson froze. The box could only mean one thing: his mother, Sky. And the place? The estate of Sheffield Grayson. The man who broke him. The man who ruined Toby. The man Grayson had sworn never to see again. Meanwhile, Jameson inherited something strange of his own, a map hand-drawn, incomplete. Tobias had left it in a vault marked "For my gambler." The note read, "You never needed a crown, Jamie. But here's the trail to one anyway." It pointed toward a private island once owned by a mysterious branch of the Hawthorne family, one lost to time, scandal, and whispers of murder. Jameson felt it in his blood, the thrill, the danger, the hunt. He was all in. Xander, tinkerer and secret keeper, discovered a flaw in the Hawthorne vault's encryption logs. An entry Tobias never wanted anyone to find had triggered a dormant security protocol, and the access code? Xander's own birthdate. Confused and curious, he followed the data trail. It led to a hidden vault inside Tobias's private workshop. Inside, a birth certificate, not his, someone else's, a half-sibling he never knew existed. Nash tried to stay out of it. He'd left the Hawthorne chaos behind. Libby made him pancakes. He made her laugh. But then a woman from his past showed up at his door, with a child, his child. The boy had the Hawthorne jawline, and a note pinned to his shirt. "You always said you didn't want to be like your father. Prove it." Suddenly, Nash wasn't just the oldest brother, he was a father. Grayson, Jameson, Nash, and Xander gathered at Hawthorne House again. Each held their own secrets, each carried Tobias's legacy in a different way, and now, they each had a mission. Grayson, face the mother who betrayed him. Jameson, unearth the crown Tobias claimed he could win. Xander, find the sibling he never met. Nash, decide what kind of man and father he wants to be. And Avery, she watched from the sidelines. For once, this wasn't her game. It was theirs. Grayson stepped back into the estate of Sheffield Grayson. The air stank of cigars and old power. Sky greeted him with a champagne flute and a lie. "So good to see you, darling." But the real power now lay elsewhere, with a young woman named Savannah, recently named as Sheffield's protege. Savannah claimed to be a philanthropist, but Grayson knew a manipulator when he saw one, and she had Sheffield wrapped around her finger. She was building something, using his name, and it reeked of legacy theft. Jameson followed the map to the edge of the Hawthorne-owned coastal properties. There, buried beneath layers of deed transfers and shell corporations, was Hawthorne Island, abandoned, forgotten, except it wasn't. People were there, squatters, smugglers, and someone guarding a vault built into the rocks. The rumors were true. This had been Tobias Hawthorne's original testing ground for his grandsons, and Jameson had just stepped into a trap meant only for him. Xander tracked the birth certificate to a woman who had vanished years ago, a teenage runaway who once worked as a maid at Hawthorne House. She had a daughter, now 17, named Elisa, bright, cynical, obsessed with puzzles. She didn't know who her father was, but the DNA test Xander quietly ran told the truth. Tobias Hawthorne had one more heir, and she might be smarter than all of them. Nash met the mother of his child at a diner outside Austin. She didn't want money. She wanted him to know that their son Jamie was growing up smart, kind, and a little reckless, and he wanted to know his father. Nash said, "What if I screw it up?" She replied, "Then you try again, and again, and again." Just like Tobias never did. Jameson finally cracked the code on Hawthorne Island. A riddle embedded in the map had led him to the rocky cliffside. There, hidden beneath jagged stone and rusted iron, was the original Hawthorne vault, an experimental prototype designed by Tobias decades ago. But it wasn't just a vault. It was a trap. As Jameson stepped inside, The door sealed behind him. A voice Tobias's echoed through an old speaker. Gamble wrong and lose everything. The vault was a puzzle box of mechanical challenges, pressure plates, rotating rooms, chemical locks. Each trial was designed to test Jameson's instincts, the same instincts Tobias admired. But the final chamber forced a choice. There were two buttons. One would open the door, the other would fill the vault with nerve gas. Jameson closed his eyes and remembered something Tobias once said: the key to risk isn't courage, it's calculation. He pressed the left button. The door slid open. He collapsed into sunlight, gasping, alive. Inside the vault, Jameson found what Tobias had promised: a crown data, an antique, real gold, crusted with rubies. But beneath it was a letter. This is not a prize, it is a burden. It once belonged to a boy who ruled too soon. Tobias hadn't been offering Jameson power, he was offering him perspective, and a warning. Back at Sheffield Grayson's estate, Grayson was peeling back layers of deception. Savannah, the philanthropist, had used shell foundations and forged family ties to start rebranding herself as a Hawthorne. She was planning a public event, a gala, to unveil a new Hawthorne legacy, built under Sheffield's name, and Skye was in on it. Grayson confronted his mother. Why do you always bet against us? Skye replied, because you were never Tobias's. Not really. You were always his replacement. Those words nearly shattered him, but instead, they steeled him. Xander introduced himself to Elisa, the girl who shared Tobias's blood. She was blunt, suspicious, and terrifyingly brilliant. When he told her the truth, she didn't cry, she laughed. Figures. All those puzzles I made as a kid? Guess I inherited that, huh? But Elisa didn't want the name, or the money. She wanted answers. Why didn't he ever come for me? Xander made her a promise. I'll help you find out. Nash showed up at the kids' school play. He sat in the back unnoticed, until Jamie, his son, spotted him. He waved, smiled, and after the show, he walked up to Nash and said, Mom says I get my temper from you. Nash knelt down. I'll teach you how to use it right. And just like that, the Hawthorne legacy passed to another generation. All four brothers returned to Hawthorne House, changed. Grayson had uncovered a fraud. Jameson had faced death and emerged clearer. Xander had a new sibling. Nash had stepped into fatherhood. They sat on the rooftop, four shadows under the moonlight, and for once, they didn't argue, they shared, because Tobias Hawthorne hadn't left them riddles for entertainment. He had left them challenges to become more, and together, they finally understood. They weren't just inheriting wealth, they were inheriting a purpose. A final envelope was found, hidden beneath the chess table. Each brother's name was written in Tobias's looping script. The letter read, I chose Avery to bring you together, but I chose you to build what comes next. The world needs thinkers, builders, protectors, risk takers. You are not kings, you are architects of the next game, of the next legacy, of yourselves. Grayson showed up to Savannah's gala in a tailored black suit, calm, deadly. He waited until her press speech began, until cameras were rolling, and then stepped up to the mic. She is not a Hawthorne. She is not a philanthropist. She is a fraud. He presented the documents, the fake charities, the fake grants. Savannah's expression cracked like porcelain. Sheffield shouted. Skye walked away, and Grayson? He left the stage with his spine straighter than ever. Xander and Elisa dove into Tobias's past. She wanted answers, and Xander refused to let her search alone. Together, they traced the old staff logs, guestbooks, and family records. What they found was devastating. Tobias Hawthorne had met Elisa's mother during one of his lowest points after the death of his daughter, Emily Lachlan. He had loved her, maybe even tried to care for her, but when she became pregnant, he sent her away, a clean break, because he didn't want another chance to fail. Tobias had never acknowledged Elisa. But in the west wing of Hawthorne House, behind a false wall, Xander and Elisa discovered something impossible: an unfinished nursery, decorated with stars, lined with puzzle boxes, waiting for a child that never arrived. Elisa stood in the center of the room and whispered, he did care. Then she turned to Xander. What do I do with that? And Xander answered the only way he knew how: build something new. Back in his room, Jameson stared at the crown Tobias had left him. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He'd won. He'd survived. But, for what? He locked it in a vault and threw away the key. That crown wasn't his. It was a symbol of the man. Tobias almost became the man who controlled people, twisted them, tested them without care. Jameson chose something else. He chose people over power. Grayson met Sky one final time, not to beg for love, but to declare his boundaries. You can't hurt me anymore. Sky sipped her wine. You're still angry. Grayson shook his head. I'm done being angry. I'm done being your pawn. I don't need your permission to be good. Sky looked up, startled, and in that moment, she realized she'd lost him forever. Sheffield Grayson made one last attempt to regain control. He showed up at Hawthorne House not as a guest, but as a threat. He tried to confront Avery, to threaten Toby, to shame Eve's memory. But Nash was waiting, and when Sheffield raised his voice, Nash raised his hand. You ever speak to my family like that again, and I swear Orin stepped between them, but it didn't matter. The message was clear. This house had guardians now. Avery hosted a private meeting in the glass garden. Jameson, Grayson, Nash, Xander, and even Toby, the Hawthorns, by blood and by choice. She turned to the brothers and said, Tobias gave each of you a path, but what you build now, that's your own legacy. Then she left them alone. It was their time. Jameson proposed a Hawthorne initiative, a think tank for gifted youth. Grayson offered legal structure and seed funding. Xander designed a gamified application process. Nash opened a mentorship program for at-risk teens. And Toby? He started working on a memoir, one that would finally tell the truth about Sheffield, about the abuse, about how he survived, and how others could too. A timer-locked envelope appeared in the Hawthorne vault, only accessible after the brothers acted on their own, not under orders, not for puzzles, but for purpose. Inside, Tobias's final words. I did not raise you, but I challenged you to rise. You were never meant to live in my shadow. You were meant to build something brighter. Elisa surprised them all by enrolling in the Hawthorne Prep Initiative. She didn't want handouts, but she wouldn't run from her name anymore. She joined Xander's team as a puzzle architect, building the very tests that would shape the next generation of minds. She was brilliant, dangerous, and finally seen. Just when peace seemed within reach, an unexpected letter arrived, unmarked. No return address. Inside, a photograph. It showed Hawthorne Island, the same place where Jameson had nearly died. But now, the vault entrance had been blown open, empty. Along with it, a list of every artifact Tobias had ever hidden away: the crown, the safe codes, even blueprints of Hawthorne House. Someone had stolen everything. A message was scrawled across the photo. Your games aren't over. You just stopped playing. No more playing solo. And no more secrets. Jameson, Grayson, Xander, and Nash met in Tobias's old war room. They strategized like generals. Each brother took a role. Grayson handled legal protections and damage control. Nash secured the family and Avery, hiring extra security and relocating Libby and Jamie. Xander began tracking digital footprints, ciphers, and auction rumors. Jameson hunted. This time, they weren't reacting. They were striking first. The stolen items had been sold to a collector obsessed with Tobias Hawthorne's legacy, a man who believed he was the rightful heir to the Hawthorne fortune. He had once been rejected from the Hawthorne programs, humiliated by Tobias's tests, and now, he wanted revenge. Jameson and Grayson arranged a public trap, a staged charity auction, baited with a fake Hawthorne artifact. The collector showed, tried to escape, but found himself surrounded by the 4 Hawthorne brothers, Tobias's security, and Avery Graham's, standing center stage, unafraid. This legacy isn't yours, she told him. It never was. He was arrested. The artifacts were recovered, and the house remained in the hands of the people who had earned it. On the rooftop, under the stars, Jameson took Avery's hand. I still don't know what comes next. She smiled. That's the best part. He pulled a new puzzle ring from his pocket. This one wasn't Tobias single quotes S.it was his design. The pieces formed a compass. Wherever you go, he said. I want to be your north. Avery leaned in. Then let's build the map together. Months passed. The Hawthorne Foundation opened campuses worldwide. The Hawthorne Vaults became museums of logic, scholarship, and resilience. Toby's memoir launched a national movement. Elisa's puzzle program was inducted into school curriculums, and in every corner of every building, one quote was etched in marble. Your legacy is not what you inherit, it's what you choose to become. On a quiet evening, the brothers gathered one last time in the study. The chessboard was reset. The king piece had been replaced by a mirror so whoever played saw themselves as the one in control. Xander made the first move. Nash rolled his Eisen played the second. Grayson sighed, adjusted a rook. Jameson smirked, leaned back and said, I liked it better when the puzzles were trying to kill us. They laughed, because for once, the only thing at stake was joy.as. If on cue, the fireplace clicked open, a final mechanical trigger, the walls shifted, and a hidden panel emerged. Inside was a time capsule Tobias had left marked, for when the boys become men. They opened it. Inside, photos of them as children, a letter for each of them, and a single line on a metal plaque, you made me proud. Not for what you solved but for who you became solving it.